I can't believe I'm doing this again. Wobbuffet. Prominently featured in the anime, absolutely brutal to use in a solo run. 3 years ago, I managed to somehow beat Gold and Silver with the Wobbuffet, but now we're in Generation 3, which I don't know how it's going to change things, but let's go and see. Of course, the rules are the same as they always are. I will not be using items in battle. I'll only be using Wobbuffet, and I won't be hacking, glitching, cheating, none of that. What I will be doing is telling you why Wobbuffet is just so abominably awful at completing a solo run. So Wobbuffet is essentially the Pokemon version of Sandbag from Super Smash Bros. Melee. The whole point of it is that it's just supposed to take there and get hit a million times and then counter the move. Wobbuffet gets exactly 4 moves. No TMs, nothing like that. It starts with all 4 moves it's gonna get. Those moves are Destiny Bond, which because we're in a solo run is actually useless. Safeguard, which for 5 turns protects me from statuses, usually pretty useless. And then our main 2 moves. Counter, a fighting move, and Mirror Coat, a psychic move. The 2 moves are identical. One just deals with physical attacks, the other with special attacks. And the way they work is simple. However much damage is dealt to Wobbuffet, so let's say 10, Counter or Mirror Coat will deal back double. This explains Wobbuffet's truly unique stat distribution. It's got a lot of HP and not much of anything else. In fact, if you took out its HP, I think it would be one of the weakest Pokemon in the entire game. I think Sunkern's still worse, but still. With all that introduction out of the way, let's get started on our journey to try and beat the Kanto region with this glorified punching bag. But first, a big thank you to today's sponsor, Raycon. Now, on this channel, we definitely appreciate the classics, and so today we're going to be featuring the Raycon Everyday Earbuds Classic. Now, like a lot of you, I get distracted really easily by all the noises that just happen everywhere, and I need to focus when I'm doing my videos, so the active noise cancellation by the Everyday Earbuds are just such an amazing feature, so I can focus solely on the audio I'm editing, which is really useful. And while I've been hesitant in the past to use wireless earbuds because of charging, I really never even think about charging my Raycons. They have 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery, so I get the best of both worlds here, where I don't have to worry about cords and the earbuds last long enough for my purposes. Now, if you want these awesome earbuds, don't worry, I got you. All you gotta do is go to buyraycon.com/jrose11, or you can just click the convenient links in the description or pinned comment. And if you do that by using my link, you'll get 20% off the fan favorite Everyday Earbuds Classic. Alrighty, so our first major battle is against Brock. He is a Geodude in Onix, like always, and he uses Tackle, which deals 7, meaning Counter is going to deal 14. Thankfully, Brock doesn't have any potions, so we're able to knock out Geodude in 3 hits. Now, Onix is next. Tackle does 6. Bind is bad, though. Really bad. Because Bind, we only deal back 6 damage, and it hits me every turn for 1/16. That does just enough damage so that when Onix uses Rock Tomb, we actually get knocked out and we lose. This is what makes using Wobbuffet so difficult. When the AI is predictable, when I know exactly what it's going to do, I can plan accordingly. But if it's just gonna be random, especially with critical hits and stuff, some battles really do just coming down to pressing A and hoping the opponents use the correct moves at the correct times. So like here, I have 12 HP, that's not enough for Rock Tomb, so that crit did matter. In our next battle, however, after we get to Onix, this time the Onix does cooperate with us, and we win with 13 HP. You'll see after leveling up, we gain an additional 5. Now, I'll tell you, I could have battled the bug catchers in Viridian Forest, but didn't. And why? Well, glad you asked. Let me introduce to you a trainer that isn't impossible with my current strategies, but is close to it. And that is this bug catcher. What's his name? Colton? Who cares? Anyway, see, the problem with Colton is that he alternates between a very weak Tackle and a string shot which does nothing. Like, I'm literally going last. Counter and Miracote, by the way, have negative priority, so they always go last. But you can see, because tackle does so little, usually 3, sometimes 4, it takes forever. Then Weedle outspeeds because of all those string shots, and I need to set up Safeguard, because if I'm poisoned, that's 1/8 every turn. And I mean, look how long this is taking. But as we speed up, you'll notice it's not my HP that becomes the issue, it's my power points. I run out of counter. You only get 20 of them, and while in theory, if we get less string shots, I could win, in practice, that's really annoying. Thankfully, there is another way Wobbuffet can knock out Pokemon. And against weak trainer Pokemon, this is arguably the quickest way to do that. Now, here's the plan. We're going to head down to the forest, but we're not going to collect some Pokemon. Not got to catch them all. Not got to catch them all, no. We keep on using counter, and then we use it some more in order to get struggle. I can't, you know, Viridian City, it's a song from like the old Pokemon show. Anyway, but joking aside, I am going to just keep using counter, Miracote, Safeguard in order to get struggle because, well, let me just show you, struggle is far more effective against weak Pokemon than counter and Miracote are. Wobbuffet might have abysmal attack, but struggle is still doing way more than counter would. And this is huge because, like we talked about, although it doesn't happen here, Weedle can actually do a lot with just poisoning me. The biggest downside of using struggle is that we can't heal at Pokemon centers, and until we get the Versus Seeker, money isn't an infinite resource. We're gonna run out, and Wobbuffet has a ton of HP, meaning we're going to need a lot of potions to heal it up. So we're gonna have to just frequently keep going back to the forest in order to get struggle. This is extremely annoying, extremely tedious. In Vermilion, where we get the Versus Seeker, we can also get the Old Rod, and thus we can just fish for Magikarp, which will speed things up substantially. But the early game is, and I am using this as a pun, quite a struggle. Even with struggle, I just want you to see that it's not like these battles are free. This is Super Nerd Miguel, and here I do get poisoned, and you can see just how close I come to losing just a random battle. Every single battle with Wobbuffet is kind of like this, and it's really, really, really frustrating. Fun fact, by the way, if we continue the footage a little bit, in FireRed and LeafGreen, that item you see is actually an antidote, which would have been quite useful. But what I was saying before I rudely interrupted myself is that there really aren't any great or free battles. You may also notice that I have, what am I doing here? I'm trying to catch a Geodude. I have a Pikachu, a Magikarp. Why am I doing all this? It will pay off in the second half of the game. Some of you might already know why, but for those of you who don't, this will be one of the most important investments we ever make in Wobbuffet. For now, well, I can't catch the Zubat, but for now, when we can, catching Pokemon, very good. All right, so Misty is going to be our second major battle because she mostly just uses special attacks. Of course, she can use Harden, but I'm hoping, all right, can I get a Water Pulse, please? There we go. Oh, I'm confused. It's only it's 20%. But I'm thinking that will do quite a bit of damage. All right, well, eventually it'll do quite a bit of damage. All right. Okay, it almost knocks it out. One weird thing about Counter and Miracote that is kind of counterintuitive, I'm going to have to reset this battle because I got really bad luck. They get weaker as you level up. I'll talk a bit about this later, but this is actually a constant problem and it makes this run so unique. This is why I'm really not leveling up so much. I have the Persianberry for confusion. I go Miracote. It's going to heal. Now remember, in Gen 2, there's a glitch where Miracote would work again. That's been fixed. It just does nothing. That was an annoying critical hit. I do want to see how much Starmie's Water Pulse does. And, well, it also gets a critical hit. Holy mackerel. Anyway, finally in our third battle, we get okay luck. We knock out the Staryu with 40 HP. And then Starmie, we're so close. All right. I don't know if this is doable. It might be. All right, battle number, what is this, 4 or 5? We knock it out with 59 HP. And as you can see, in this battle, despite the fact I'm at the exact same level, the Starmie did a little bit more damage to me, and that means I do more damage back to it. So damage ranges still are important. Usually, I want the opponent to get the low roll and I to get the high roll, but now, the only way I can get the high rolls if the opponent does too. Kind of this weird relationship. So I'm constantly cheering for opponents to do as much damage as possible so that one-shots can happen. And for those of you asking, no. Counter and Mirror Coat cannot themselves crit. The opponents can crit, and then they will do the extra damage. But there's no variation. Whatever it does to me, just times that by 2. And that's, like I was talking about before I got into this battle, why I don't want to level up too much, because when I do level up, I'm going to get less damage done to me, and it will actually take more counters or Mirror Coats, which makes things even more difficult if I can get status. So there's this really, really difficult balancing act between being knocked out myself, dealing damage, not getting status. It's fascinating, albeit for you guys. For me, unfortunately, the run can get kind of tedious. I am only 40 minutes into a run that, I don't want to tell you how long it is, but I'll tell you, significantly longer than 40 minutes. One of the worst things about the run is the rival. He actually isn't as bad later in the game, but he is abominable early on. Now, this battle, I get absurdly lucky, and you don't know how much I wish I would have won here. And if you're wondering, well, how the heck did you lose, Jaros? Abra. Frickin' Abra. Now, I actually messed up a little bit. I'm trying to waste my power points so that I can use struggle, but Abra has far fewer than I do. And if I had just started going for counter just a little bit earlier, I would have actually probably won with 2 HP, but I didn't calculate how many teleports it had used, and thus I lost to Abra. I think that's the first time anyone has ever said that. It's like the free Pokemon. But this battle, remember I just said I got absurdly lucky? Thankfully, that would continue a couple battles later when I finally got the win. Nothing super interesting. The one thing I'll mention is I use an Oran Berry. You can collect berries and they don't respawn in this game. So once you collect a berry and use it, it's gone for good, which is annoying. But there is a way to get some of the berries. We'll talk about that much, much later in the video. We have a lot of time because this Abra is going to take 10 years. And if you wonder why not just use struggle here, I honestly don't think it would work. I don't think I do enough damage. But you can see here when I calculated properly and had the additional health, although I had even 5 HP to spare beyond the Oran Berry, beating Abra was pretty easy. But sorry, I'm kind of talking in 5 different directions here, so one thought at a time. Berries are acquirable, but unless you use pickup, which we're about to get access to, you need to get to Meowth first, so I would have had to have done Nugget Bridge. But other than that, the berries that are on the ground, I didn't even notice these as a kid, by the way. They're more noticeable now when you can up-res the games. Thank you, modern technology. But there are those little spots of green, and like I said, you can collect berries there, but it's a one-time only thing. So that was the first thing we could see from that battle. The second thing we could see from this battle is how we need to alternate between counter Mirror Coat strats, and usually against the really good trainers, that's what you're going to want to do, and against bad trainers, you're going to want to use struggle. But here, there aren't any Metapod available, so using up all your power points is difficult, and in fact, I screw up here and get poisoned, and now I have to fight a trainer Metapod, meaning I lose. I'll be honest with you, in terms of tediousness and annoyingness, the average trainer battles are so much worse. Usually, in these runs, it's the major battles, like, oh, I can't beat Watson, it's taking like hours and hours, I gotta level up. Or, oh my god, it gets all the way to the Elite Four and now I can't do it. Here, it's just every single trainer can be so irritating. And you guys have no idea how much more annoying it gets, but you will, trust me, I'll let you know. It took me 20 minutes to get through that part of the game and battle Rival 3, and this might be at least to this point in the game, one of the absolute worst battles. Now, you won't see it here because I get absurdly lucky. I know I said that last time, but this time I promise you, luck will not continue. You'll see why in just a second, but I knock out both the War Turtle and the Pidgeotto, but I don't have enough HP for the final Pokemon, Kadabra. It's in battle number 2 where we see what's going to start happening here. Pidgeotto, until the very end, has Sand Attack. And Sand Attack makes this run obnoxious because we need all our HP to win. That's why we lost the first battle, the flinches. In this battle, also, War Turtle's so annoying. I don't know why, it just spams withdraw. So, like, I don't even know what to do. Just, all right, withdraw, withdraw, withdraw. There's Bite. Okay, no flinch. All right, let's just look at this battle. Okay, so we have half our HP. 2 Pokemon remaining. Now, Raticate only has physical attacks, goes for Hyper Fang, it can flinch, but not enough to knock it out. Now we have 25 HP for Kadabra. You would think it's bad. It disables counter, that's perfect. Confusion, of course I'm confused. And I don't have enough, I don't think. Nope, I don't know if I had enough before, but what if I told you that would be the closest I would get to beating Rival 3 for like a solid half hour? Because Pidgeotto is just the worst. You might think that Counter and Mirror Coat can never miss, and I can understand why you might think that. They are similar in philosophy to a very popular move from Generation 1. Everyone's favorite first TM they ever acquired, Bide. Now, Bide cannot miss. At least it cannot miss in Gen 1 and then Gen 4 to present. Funny enough, in Gens 2 and 3 it can. But since Counter was introduced, it has 100 accuracy, which means it shouldn't miss ordinarily, but when Sand Attack is used, it can. Now, the other thing I should mention, because I keep resetting for one without Sand Attack, but wait, it gets even frickin' better. You see, I didn't just get lucky that Pidgeotto didn't use Sand Attack. I got lucky in another way, because Gust, Tackle, and Quick Attack can do 6, 7, or 8. And if it does 6 or 7 a single time, it's going to be a 4-shot. And that gives it another opportunity to use Sand Attack. And if I told you guys I was stuck on this for like an hour, I mean, look at it again. This time, wait, hold up. Okay, we made it to War Turtle, but now, withdraw. All right, can you just bite? No, gotta withdraw, gotta be tedious, gotta be annoying. You gotta raise your defense. 4 withdraws. Don't know why the AI does this, but great. No flinch, but it's gonna be a 2-shot. Okay, you know what? Things are looking up. 52 HP. We got this, right, chat? We got this. Oh, there's the flinch. Oh, well. Oh, and now we lose. Yep. Between the flinch chances for Bite, the flinch chances for Hyper Fang, I didn't know what to do. And it's not like I can just level up, right? Because it's not as if when I level up, Wobbuffet also, look how annoying it is just to battle random trainers. They're supersonic. But I digress. Leveling up, as we talked about, isn't like a benefit to me. If anything, it means my counters and mirror coats will do less damage. So do we just use struggle? No, I didn't even try that. Here's what I actually did. And this is, if I do say myself, really smart. I've manipulated my power points in a very specific way so that I should be able to knock out the Pidgeotto. And yep, I'm even going to get Sand Attacked. I have to just deal with it. So we have 4 counters for Pidgeotto. And then War Turtle is why struggle won't work. War Turtle's struggle does not do enough damage. It is an incredibly bulky Pokemon that likes to use withdraw. So the goal is to have enough mirror coats. I have 6. It doesn't always use the same amount of withdraws. And I can even get a flinch. But it was okay because I found a citrus berry. I'll show you where that is in just a second. But that's not the only part of the plan that was really smart. What the actual plan is against Eradicate, although I wanted 2 counters, I run out of all my moves, I've used up all my safeguards, and oh no. Okay. So against Kadabra, Mirror Coat really sucked. So it turns out the strategy was to manipulate my power points such that I would use counter Mirror Coat against most of the team, but then against the Kadabra with its awful defense, struggle. And the Citrus Berry, for those of you who are wondering where you can find that, for the record, I have never used this in my life. I didn't even know this was here. I know on the other side there's a rare candy. I already had gotten that. But the Citrus Berry plus the PowerPoint manipulation, although, to be fair, maybe just the Citrus Berry would have worked too. But I'd like to say it's both those things. And we were able to beat Rival 3, and we're still not even close to halfway done. The next major battle is Lieutenant Surge. And I know that in Red and Blue's Surge was a joke, but you guys should know that FireRed and LeafGreen are tougher, and nothing is a joke with Wobbuffet. Surge has 3 Pokemon, a Voltorb, a Pikachu, and a Raichu. Now, I was worried about being statused. I should have been worried about Sonic Boom. Unfortunately, Voltorb has more than 40 health, so we need to use 2 counters in order to knock it out. And actually, it's going to heal, so we need more than that. And look at that. We are at 61 health to Pikachu. It goes for Shockwave. I want to make sure I don't get statused, but now we get introduced to another very annoying thing AI trainers love to do, raise evasion. You see, we don't really see what the AI strategies often are in my runs, because typically in a Pokemon solo run or in any single player Pokemon run, the optimal strategy is hit it fast, hit it hard. Never react, never adjust, never play to your opponent, make your opponent play to you. Well, the problem with Wobbuffet is that I literally cannot do that. And so even a weak Pokemon like Pikachu, when using its strategy, can overwhelm Wobbuffet. And to be quite honest with you, I knew that if I leveled up enough, I could just maybe win with struggle. So I decided I had no interest in this battle with Surge. I was already so frustrated over that battle with Rival 3. I decided we can move on to the next part of the game. Surely that won't be super mega awful and annoying foreshadowing. Actually, very slight foreshadowing, because I'm literally going to show you one of the worst Pokemon in this run. Now, this Pokemon has been an issue before with ground and rock Pokemon, but against Wobbuffet, why don't we take a look at what moves a level 22 Oddish would have? Since in this generation, as with most Pokemon games, the standard trainers don't get custom movesets, they just use the last 4 moves via level up. Do you notice anything about the 4 highlighted moves? Like that none of them actually deal any damage? And unfortunately, I healed Wobbuffet at a Pokemon Center, not realizing this was a thing. I don't know Gen 3 like I know Gen 1, and I simply could not have even fathomed there is a Pokemon I was about to battle that literally had 0 attacking moves. So while Safeguard is great at making sure I don't get poisoned or something, I can't attack. I just have to run out of power points, which, to be honest with you, doesn't even work. Unfortunately, Safeguard is going to fail, and Oddish, if it uses Poison Powder, which it did, which to be fair, it could have maybe used Stun Spore, I had just not enough HP to beat Bulbasaur. Now, here's the truth. In looking back at this, I probably could have just done this battle a few more times. Sure, it's incredibly tedious, but I thought it might be smarter after I beat these trainers, so I forgot to save in front of her because I didn't realize how difficult she would be. I realized that maybe the best thing to do would just be to go get Struggle back. Well, fun fact about that. In the grass, there aren't really any great Pokemon to go and just try to use moves against. Voltorb has Sonic Boom, and the other Pokemon eventually do wear down your HP. So, okay, here's a better idea. Let's go back to Cerulean, right? Easy. Well, let me teach you something else about Counter and Mirror Coat. So these Beedrill, all they have is Focus Energy and Fury Attack. I mean, that's all they're going to use. And you might notice that my counter isn't actually doing that much. I'm going really fast. This is really tedious. Well, that's because counter does not counter the total amount of damage done to me. It's not like Bide. It is the final hit. That is all it counters. And so for that reason, these Beedrill are awful. Awful, awful, awful. I did end up beating them and going back and getting struggle, and it was fine. But holy mackerel, was it awful. And for the record, you have to go back and get struggle multiple times because, skipping a little bit ahead since we have so much more game to cover, after you beat the annoying Oddish trainer and her annoying Bulbasaur, you eventually have to fight Hiker Dudley, better known in Gen 1 as Whitgag. And since they're rock Pokemon, you're gonna want to use Counter. In fact, if you don't, it's actually way harder. They don't self-destruct or use Explosion or something like that, but you can notice they still do a lot of damage and can beat me. But here's the best part. After you're done with all of that, you then get to fight one last annoying trainer. Oh my god, did this bother me when I forgot about her. Picnicker Dana. Dana has 3 Pokemon. Want to guess what the final one is? If you guessed Oddish, you'd be right. This time, thankfully, because there's no Bulbasaur, I was actually able to run out of power points and not get poisoned, which is really good. But man, was it annoying. Now, skipping ahead a bit to the Rocket Game Corner, I'm going to tell you that I do think the game is going to get slightly less tedious shortly-ish. But there's a few more really annoying things we need to get through. Also, in the interest of time, I can't go over every super annoying random trainer battle. There are many of them, but essentially, I can sum up a lot of my frustrations to that some battles require me to have all my power points, and other battles I need to have none of them. And there's also battles like we've seen with Rival 3 where I want some power points and then using struggle. And trying to figure that out for everyone is kind of fun as like a puzzle. It is beyond tedious to waste power points, or at least it was, because I forgot about the Old Rod and Magikarp up to this point. I mentioned it to you guys, and I knew about it, and if I had had the Old Rod, I wouldn't have had to have gone back to Cerulean and dealt with the Beedrill stuff. So it's not as if I'm perfect. I make mistakes too. Part of the frustration is me making mistakes, but I feel like Wobbuffet just naturally requires you to really map out every single battle, which is typically not how I do these runs, but maybe it is in the future. Although I don't know if I'm going to use Wobbuffet ever again. We'll talk about why a little later. Alright, enough time has passed that I go to battle Surge, but I actually screw up and forget to use struggle strats, and Surge beats me not once, but like 3-4 times. Again, not red and blue, not as embarrassing, but what if I told you with struggle, it's not free, like at all? That the Voltorb using Sonic Boom can whittle down my HP, and then I can end up not having enough to face Raichu. Because that's exactly what happened in my first battle with struggle, and it didn't happen in my second battle, but I was paralyzed, and thus the Raichu beat me. I think I battled Surge like 10 times. I don't know if Sean kept track because I also ended up leveling up by battling the trainers on Route 11. But I want to make this clear. I know some of you really don't like when I use struggle with Wobbuffet because it's against the spirit of what Wobbuffet is. But like, I mean this in the nicest way. Give me a break. I mean, this is so annoying. I also used a Lumberry here. And notice Lumberry on the static, and then I get paralyzed anyway. And so now I don't have a Lumberry, which thankfully I will tell you right now, did not come back to bite me. Because I know you're expecting it will. This is like the first time where something really bad happened, and it didn't catastrophically screw up the run later on. But this took forever. The struggle strats are not like get out of jail free. You really need to know when to use them and when not to. And maybe I could have used a hybrid strat there, but holy mackerel, is this really annoying? And in fact, for the record, I mentioned I wouldn't use Wobbuffet again. It's because in later generations, struggle strats aren't an option. And so if you ever encounter a Pokemon that you might need to use struggle against, well, that would be quite a problem for you. Thankfully, we're still in Gen 3 where that's not a thing yet, but anyway, that's a problem for future JROs, because I know you guys are going to say, JROs, do it in Platinum! No, but maybe one day. I am 3 hours into this run, and I've just made it to Giovanni 1 the first time. Giovanni 1, I do believe we want to use counter mirror code strats. This is really good against Pokemon that hit really hard, like Kangaskhan, and it's also good against Pokemon that only use either physical or special moves. Now, unfortunately for me, Kangaskhan decides it's going to use its one special move, Bite, which in Generation 3, physical... Oh, wow, that did a lot of damage. We should be fine. 50 HP, as long as Rhyhorn doesn't flinch us or something. Oh, actually, this could be a problem. And it has Fury Attack. Remember, we talked about that earlier. That wasn't foreshadowing. This run just sucks. It's just the worst. You never catch a break. There's no breaks. It's constant beating your head against the wall and hoping you can figure out your way through it. There is strategy. As you can see, I have and I will figure out interesting ways of dealing with these problems, but right now I just don't have all the tools I need to fully use my bag of tricks. So I'm really hoping oh my god, I'm just gonna reset here. Fake out, okay. Finally, in attempt number 3 against one of the easiest battles typically in one of these runs, we get a victory. And you'll notice most of these battles take multiple attempts. I do not believe we have had a single first try victory in any major battle yet. So that just goes to show you how difficult it is. But very shortly, we are going to have the key item we need. Not a literal key item, like it's an item that's really important. But we're going to get it, and it's going to make all the difference. But before we can do that, we have to make our way through the Pokemon Tower. And again, in Gen 1, this is a joke. But in this run, oh my god, did Rival 4... this was awful. You have no idea. I literally just did a random number generator to determine what starter the Rival would have. But he has the Pidgeotto, and we've already talked about how much Sand Attack sucks. I'm just going to show you these battles and resets. I'm not going to go and do play-by-play because I'm not winning these. So we just need to talk about how awful they are. It's also important to note that the order the Pokemon come out in is consistent, which is pretty cool. Now, the first 2 Pokemon are very much like what you saw with Rival number 3. But now, introducing Growlithe, which likes to use Ember and can potentially burn me, but that's not the big deal. It's Execute, because Execute has a move that if it uses it, we're done. Leech Seed. Now, missed there, but with our gargantuan HP, look at that expression. That is the expression of someone who recognizes one of the worst moves that could be used against me, because I cannot swap out. It's not a solo run if I can swap out, even though I technically have other Pokemon here. Not allowed to use them in battle in any way. Also, you can see I immediately go to Magikarp because I know I'm going to have to do something. But I have so much HP, that would just... Oh my gosh. So, what happens if I just use Struggle? I didn't do it against Rival 3. What happens if I do that? Well, for those Struggle haters, good news for you, it doesn't actually work. Wartortle just simply is too bulky. And so, I kind of start leveling up because I just don't know what else to do. Honestly, I didn't really have a strat here. I just figured I'll think about things and level up, and maybe something will occur. There are no more citrus berries. I used the only one, which in retrospect, maybe I could have saved, but I didn't know what to do. And, you know, leveling up that's what I do when I run into issues in solo runs typically. I know this isn't a typical run, but what do I even do? Thankfully, by the way, when you get to Celadon, you have access to lemonades and fresh waters. We do have the ability to rebattle trainers a million times, but that is tedious and this saves a lot of time. So, pretty good. Anywho, let me show you what I ended up doing, but oh boy, did this take a long time to figure out. And you know what that really great strat was? Just struggle. I couldn't, there's nothing else. Now, one thing you may notice as I do this is that the Rival has Growlithe, which has Intimidate. I didn't really think about this, but if I really wanted to be cruel to myself, I would have given the Rival Venusaur, which would have given a Leech Eater and 2 intimidators. I didn't think about that. I did. I just thought it was all the same, but that would have been, oh my God, that would have been brutal. Although I will say later on, I do think Blastoise and Charizard are better, but that's just my opinion. What do I know? I've only played this game like, probably only like 30, 40 times. But yeah, I don't love using Struggle, and I promise you that's not going to be the strat going forward for every single battle. There's going to be some really cool stuff we're going to do. But after losing like 100 times, manipulating power points, the quickest way to knock out the Pokemon, and therefore the most consistent and safe way, was just use Struggle by leveling up by battling every trainer. I haven't used the Versus Seeker yet. I just battled all the trainers once, and there's a lot of them. But this strategy is only going to take me so far, because now that I'm over leveled, when I do need to use Mirror Coat counter strats, I'm at a disadvantage, but it was what I needed to do. Plus, I need to use Struggle against these Ghastlies anyway, because there's no other way to damage them. Ghastly, for the record, ghost moves are physical, and counter, unlike Bide in Generation 1, is affected by immunities. In other words, it does not hit ghost types. So we cannot counter a Shadow Ball. Foreshadowing. Oh God, there's so much more left. But things are about to get, I wouldn't say substantially easier, but easier. I've mentioned this before. So after we get the Pokeflute, something magical happens. We can go and wake up Snorlax. But it's not the Snorlax I really want here. It's what's underneath it. If we then fly to Vermilion City and talk to this aide, and if we have caught 30 Pokemon, we get the Item Finder, a thoroughly useless item, but for one incredibly useful purpose. And that is, under the Snorlax, you can use the Item Finder, and this is the only way, I repeat, the only way to get leftovers. No, it is not in the trash can of SSN. You're probably confusing it with Gen 3. No, it's not in a garbage can in Celadon. You're confusing it with Gen 2. In this game, you have to wake up Snorlax and then have caught 30 Pokemon, and then, only then, you stand on the exact square Snorlax was, and then you have one of the most useful items in the game for Wobbuffet. And surely this will just make everything free, right? The battles are gonna be easy. Well, actually, Erica is kind of easy at this point. I mean, she always uses Stun Spore turn 1, which is why I opted to go for counter. Just save my power points in case I run out, although it's unlikely. Now, you'll remember in Gen 2 there was a bit of a glitch that when the AI would heal, I would still be able to use counter or Mirror Coat and do the same damage as last turn. That glitch is gone now. It was very useful. The biggest issue with the paralysis, although look how much HP I have, is that potentially I may actually not run out of Mirror Coats, but that Erica's Pokemon will run out of Giga Drain. Thankfully, that doesn't happen here, and it can be especially annoying against Tangela because it doesn't really have anything else useful to hit me with. But we get an easy... This wasn't my first try. I'd actually tried Erica before getting leftovers, and you can see how leftovers, essentially, not only do I, in some cases, not lose much health, but some attacks are so weak I actually gain health. And for a Pokemon that needs to be hit a whole bunch, it is just the perfect item for Wobbuffet. Also, Wobbuffet has a ton of HP to begin with, so Leftovers does a ton of recovery. Unfortunately, though, if you think the rest of these battles are just going to be free, let me introduce to you an awful, awful battle, Koga. So, against Koga, I use Safeguard because they like to use Toxic. And then counter at this level, oh, wow, that was a crit. So that's pretty unfortunate. But if you're worried about me fainting, don't. This Muck is the bane of my existence. Muck, for some reason, doesn't like to attack. I don't know why, and I don't know how the AI is working here, but for some inexplicable reason, it loves to set up Minimize, and then, although it doesn't do it here yet, it starts setting up Acid Armor. Now, in my infinite naivete, I reset here thinking that we could get better luck. We won't. In fact, the coughing can just use smokescreen, which is horribly worse, since that would affect me for the entire battle. But although I tried many times, I was unable to make it past Muck. We can just speed through, but Muck continuously just uses... Well, it's not that it just uses minimize and acid armor, although acid armor does nothing in this context. The bigger issue is that I simply, once it starts going for sludge, don't hit it enough. And even though I can hit it enough, and then it heals with a hyper potion, because my level is just a little bit too high where it's a 3-hit KO. So my thought process was, okay, what if we gain so much HP that Koga no longer heals? That we can just use 3 counters and then that's it. Well, in order to do that, we have to battle more trainers, and that means going to Sylph Company. And of course, once I was there, I decided to see if we could try Rival Fivel. Oh wait, one last thing before we cut. In case you're wondering, J-Rose, why didn't you just use Struggle? They like to use Sludge and Toxic, and if I'm poisoned at any point, I don't have enough HP. Leftovers only heals 1/16, Poison is 1/8, and Toxic is 1/16 plus 1/16 additionally every single turn. In other words, bad. Speaking of bad, how is Rival Fivel gonna go? He leads with Pidgeot. This time, it doesn't seem to go for Sand Attack first turn, which is nice. It is a 3-shot, but the rival's not going to heal, so that's one Pokemon. Next comes out Blastoise. That's really interesting. And Blastoise only has special moves. This is super... Ooh, and they do a lot. This is advantageous because I don't have to guess what it's going to do. I mean, I'm wasting a bunch of mirror codes here, but I can just... Oh, and a flinch. But eventually... I can go for Mirror Code and knock it out in 2 hits. Now comes out Growlithe. It has Takedown, so I have to guess whether it's going to go for a physical or special move. These are the worst Pokemon to deal with because it's just a... Yeah, see, there's Flame Wheel. It's just a coin flip what I'm going to get, and I just have to press one of them. All right, there's Flame Wheel. Okay, 2 Pokemon remaining. Execute might be a big problem. So... Execute, I think, has Leech Seed. And that's not something we can deal with. Actually, it goes for Stun Spore turn 1, and yeah. So, considering how much HP I have, you can imagine why, and it uses Confusion. You can imagine why this will not work. So, I have to knock out Execute before it can use Leech Seed, but I don't even know how to do that. I mean... I can't use Mirror Code. It's going to take like 10 turns, although Confusion never hit me. You know it's going to do like no damage. So what in the world am I actually going to do? Well, we've done this before against the rival, the hybrid strategy. So you'll see here I have 3 counters for Pidgeot, and then Mirror Coats for Growlithe and Blastoise. I need to be very careful with my PowerPoints, and if you think this is consistent, it wasn't. It took probably about, I would say, 5 or 6 attempts, and that is with this configuration of PowerPoints. There were additional battles to figure out the optimal number I would need. And of course, now we have RNG with Growlithe. And as we've talked about earlier, Growlithe has Intimidate, which means we are now -1 in attack. Thankfully, the way Growlithe works, it whittles down my PowerPoints, and now the strategy is simple. I have 1 safeguard for Stun Spore, so I won't be paralyzed, but it gets better and also weirder. For some reason, a lot of these trainers' AI doesn't recognize safeguard and just keeps spamming the status move over and over again. Now, you can see Struggle does next to nothing. I very much need a critical hit here, since it would hit through the Intimidate. But if I don't get it... Oh, there's the Stun Spore. And Leech Seed missed... And thankfully, for some reason, if Leech Seed missed, Execute doesn't go for it again? Question mark? I wouldn't know. This was the only time this happened. But it was the only time I needed, because Alakazam, even though it went for Reflect, and I'm just using Struggle, it can't really do enough to me. And although it took a few turns, I was able to knock it out and finally beat Rival Fivel. We are 5 hours into this challenge. I still only have half the gym badges, And if you move your mouse or finger, you'll see there's a lot more video left. So we really need to keep going here. So before I show you the win, can I just say that this was probably the most tedious and frustrating battle in the entire, well, okay, second most tedious and frustrating battle in the entire run. It sucked. I could not figure a way to make this better or quicker, and struggle just simply wouldn't work because struggle can still miss, and these Pokemon are defensively bulky. So I was stuck here for such a long time. Finally, due to an accident, really, I was able to discover a strategy. This is going to go really fast, so I'm just going to tell you what's about to happen. The Muck is going to run out of sludges and not knock me out. Usually, I was bad with my safeguards. I would get poisoned by either Toxic, which it has, or Sludge, and I would just reset. Never did we have a situation where it ran out of everything. And so, eventually, I ran out of power points and started using Struggle. I got a clutch critical hit and actually made it to coughing number 2. And here's where you can see why Struggle is not the best strategy. It takes so many hits, and without Safeguard, I got Toxic. And sadly, I did next to nothing versus Wheezing before I would have been knocked out. From this, however, I started to think of a potential strategy, which actually sort of worked, but really didn't. And in the interest of time, let's just say I tried like 80 different things, and here's what finally actually worked. Before I get to that, however, let's talk about Giovanni number 2, because I was having trouble with Giovanni number 2 because Nidorino and Nidoqueen have Poison Point. But by going to the Pokemon Tower and intentionally allowing myself to get licked by Ghastly, I was able to get paralyzed going into the battle. And while it makes the battle really tedious, paralysis, especially when the Pokemon don't do enough damage, stop the one thing that consistently makes me lose, being poisoned. And so, although it took a couple attempts because they do have Tail Whip and they can potentially do enough damage to knock me out, and actually almost did here, I was able with just 47 HP to spare to beat Giovanni number 2. And if you're thinking, paralysis, would that work against Koga? Yep, it would. Who would have thunk intentionally entering a battle paralyzed would be what I need? Also, we're not just using paralysis, but hybrid strats. In the interest of time, if I get hit by Smokescreen, I would reset, which is really tedious and annoying, but eventually coughing cooperated. And then I would try to use counters against Muck, and then I just keep going for Struggle. And although it would rarely hit, eventually, after all the potions, I would knock it out and then make it to coughing number 2. Unfortunately, at this point, I just have to deal with smoke screens. They're gonna happen. I do knock it out, and Wheezing will never use self-destruct, unfortunately. So the only thing to do is hope I get crits, hope I hit enough that I'm able to knock out Wheezing before it knocks me out. It is just pure luck, and we get so close, but thankfully the Wheezing actually ran out of sludges and had to go for Tackle. So with just a sliver of HP remaining, meaning the leveling up did actually accomplish something, and by the way, this took an hour and a half. Sure, I also did Silph Company and other things, but an hour and a half between my first battle with Koga and my last battle with Koga. That's gotta be a record. I mean, heck, the Mewtwo run is half that. The entire run. At least in Red and Blue. I don't know how it would do in FireRed LeafGreen. I can't even afford to think about that right now. I still have so much more Wobbuffet to do. There are still Sabrina, Blaine, and Giovanni number 3, Rival 6, and oh god, the Elite 4. Hey. Well, I do have one piece of good news. Sabrina is actually really easy. We just use Struggle. I don't bother doing anything else. Her Pokemon have pretty weak defenses. And this is where you really see the power of leftovers. Without them, this damage would stack up, and it would actually be, especially with the recoil damage I'm doing with Struggle, it would be kind of difficult to do this. With the leftovers, however, I'm basically at full HP until Alakazam. And so, I mean, it didn't seem to help that much versus Koga, but I promise you it did. It was going really fast, but you'll notice that I gained all that self-destruct HP right back for Muck, and I needed every bit of that for Wheezing. I mean, think about how much HP I must have gained back. I don't even know the total number I used in that battle, but yeah, leftovers, really without it, oh my god. I mean, I could probably do these battles, but I'd have to be at like level 80 or something, and trust me, that's not something I want to have to do. Thankfully, it wouldn't be required for Blaine. Blaine, once again, has the issue where potentially we have to guess whether it's going to go for physical or special, but because of Fire Blast, often special is chosen. So I just go for Mirror Coat. It goes Growlithe, then Arcanine, and the critical hits, love to see them. Get that quick and easy one-shot. Ponyta, they're all just going for Fire Blast, which is really good. Now, I gotta watch out. I could get burned, and that would really suck. But right now, everything is working exactly as I would hope. One thing I'll say is their accuracy is, like, incredible here. That Rapidash miss was, like, the first miss with a Fire Blast. But I believe that is our first try victory. No, we got one in Sabrina. It's our second consecutive first try victory. Hey, that's even better. Can we make it 3 for 3 with the final gym, Giovanni? Unfortunately, the answer is no. We're going to speed through this battle to show you why. And it's going to come up here with Nidoqueen. You see, Poison Point is very annoying. As you can tell, Wobbuffet battles are lengthy, and while Leftovers lessens poison damage, sadly, I needed one more turn's worth of HP to beat Giovanni, and it just doesn't happen. And I don't know why he has a Rhyhorn and not a Rhydon, but it would take a few attempts to beat Giovanni. Ultimately, I could have gotten paralyzed, and that would have solved this problem. I just didn't feel like it. I didn't think I needed to. And as it turns out, I didn't, although I get poisoned this time against Nidoking. But with 42 HP to spare, I knock out the second Rhyhorn, and we have gotten all 8 gym badges at a fairly reasonable level, I will have you know, with Wobbuffet. Still, as you also, well, probably know, the toughest 6 battles are coming up. Rival 6 and the Elite 5, or, you know, Elite 4 and Champ. They're not going to be easy whatsoever, and there's one battle in particular that's going to be, I think, one of the worst things I've had to do in a challenge run in a really long time. But first things first, Rival 6. So I don't know if Rival 6 has Sand Attack. It does have Feather Dance, and that theoretically could be a problem if we have to resort to hybrid strats. Since I went to the Pokemon Center to get my HP back, I will be using Counter Mirror Coat in this first attempt. Now, I like this sort of Rain Dance. Oh, it's Bite. I was thinking Hydro Pump. All right, I like that less. I don't know. Maybe Bite just does more. Anyway, it is a 2-shot. I'd love it to be a 1-shot. Oh, God, these flinches. Anyway, Rhyhorn, we're going to knock it out. It has just physical moves, so just go counter until it gets knocked out. Growlithe, once again, it's a guessing game. It's going for Leer, which is interesting. So I start going for counter. I think, ooh, 1-shot. Nice. And now Execute's where I'm a little concerned. Safeguard, I'd already gone for. So, oh no, not this again. Not this again. All right, well, I guess I have to let myself get paralyzed here or fall asleep. Wait, Solar Beam. Wait! Okay, hold up. If it's not going for Leech Seed anymore. All right, wait a minute. Is it going to go for Solar Beam? I'm paralyzed. That actually works. No PowerPoint loss. Let's go. I think that's it. Yeah, it's just Alakazam. This is just going to take a while. Wait. Why does it still have Disable? This is so annoying. All right. Thankfully, Disabled missed there, and I went for Safeguard, so it would disable. Oh, it didn't disable Safeguard. And another special defense drop. Oh, God. All right. Please, just hit. Let's go. I was trying to manipulate what disabled because Mirror Coat was the only move I could use. A first try victory against Rival 6 feels pretty darn good. Too bad. I think the Elite Four is going to be brutal, and I actually don't know if this is even going to be possible. There is a battle here that I don't know how it's going to go, and if it goes the way I fear, this may be one of the few losses I have posted on my channel. And I hope it not to be the case, but I am very concerned it just might be. First things first, we have to battle Lorelei. Now, I'm going to try initially to use counter mirror code strats. They seem like the best idea. And man, this Dugong's taking a while to set up all its moves, and Hail is really annoying because it just counteracts my leftovers. But looks like it's going to be a 2-shot, which isn't bad. Oh, well, okay, maybe a 2-shot with a range. That's kind of annoying. But we're going to knock it out. Lapras is next, and we're at half HP. Surf, okay, that crit may actually work for me. Nah, not quite. We're at 69 HP, but this Cloyster is actually pretty awful. The only move it has is Dive, which is easily telegraphed. And like I said, we can easily go for Mirror Coat. It's a 3-shot though. We do knock it out. Slowbro does a ton of damage. And okay, we got this, but now Jinx, oh, it likes to spam Lovely Kiss. That is less than lovely, and I'm not gonna outspeed a Jinx. Man, if I was awake, we could probably win. Oh, there we go, but we don't have enough HP. I don't think so. And we only had 1 power point of Mirror Coat left. Well, this wasn't the battle I was referring to, by the way. I actually want to try something here. This Jinx proved to be most annoying, and I'm just going to speed through because this battle took a really long time each time. Very frustrating battle. And that is true with all the counter Mirror Coat battles, but especially because of Cloyster, because it takes so long just to decide it wants to attack. But we got really lucky with Slowbro, and we had just enough HP, and we woke up at the right times. Actually, we had more than enough HP, but we you know what? After like 7 losses, I think, it was nice to beat Jinx, and we move on to Bruno. Now, I'm going to speed through this one too. We use counter. We just use counter. Hitmonchan is annoying because it likes to spam counter, but eventually it started going for Sky Uppercut, which was nice. And yeah, I went to counter, and eventually I won. Cool. Now let's talk about Agatha. I've mentioned this already in the Pokemon Tower, but Agatha uses, at least her first Gengar uses ghost moves. And counter, even though they're physical moves, will not affect ghost Pokemon. So the actual only way to hit the Gengar is with struggle. But I don't want to do the other 2 with struggle. So I had to see exactly how many Mirror Coats encounters it took me to get to Agatha. Now I have way too many safeguards as well, but I used 8 of them. And, well, I'm not going to really be able to do anything here. I'm trying to stall, but eventually this Gengar also knows Toxic. And although I do eventually use struggle, it's actually going to be a 4-shot, plus it uses Double Team Toxic. Why does every AI opponent love the evasion poison strats? But as you'd expect, I would lose. And I had to kind of think about that, because it's gonna go for Toxic, so I definitely need a safeguard, and it's gonna go for Double Team, so I have to hit it quickly. So the only logical solution is I need to level up more for struggle. But as we talked about, leveling up for struggle means the counters and Mirror Coats are going to be different. And so I made a decision I don't normally make, but I feel in this specific run, it's the right decision. I'm going to go right to level 100. The reasoning is I'm going to need to manipulate power points. I'm going to need to know the struggle and Mirror Coat math. And the only way this is going to be any kind of consistent is if I deal with the numbers consistently. In other words, I don't want to have to learn everything at level 80 and then, oh, it doesn't do enough to Gengar. Let's try 90. 100 is the highest we can get. So let's just get there. And if the math works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I just don't see a point, considering how quick we have to knock out that first Gengar. I think we should just go for broke. And it took me a while, I ended up assembling an army of Meowth and farming rare candies. No shiny this time. This is our first run I've done that where I didn't encounter a shiny. Interesting. But with all that said and done, we are now at level 100 and time to rebattle Lorelei and Bruno. It's going to be different. Now, you might be wondering why we're going ultra fast. Well, there's Cloyster, but I'll just tell you what was different. I needed more mirror coats, but as it would turn out, because of annoying RNG, I would run out before all the Pokemon fainted. And so we're going to actually have to waste all our power points and go for struggle. This isn't the end of the world necessarily, because at the very least, I can make it to Agatha with struggle. And then once I figure out exactly how much I do and whatnot, I might be able to come back with a safeguard. Now, you might wonder, am I going to be able to beat Bruno with just struggle? Well, I don't have to. I have ethers. And so by trying to do the right amount of ethers, I also have PP ups. I'm able to knock out all his Pokemon, although I do have to resort to struggle. And my HP gets really low. It gets really low. But, well, I mean really low for Bruno. But we persevere. And now I just kind of have to see how Agatha goes. All right, let's do this. How much damage do we do? What happens? We outspeed, and it's a 3-shot. That's really unfortunate. But it's going for Shadow Punch and not Toxic, which is... Oh, well, there's Toxic. So it doesn't seem to go for Toxic right away. So long as it goes for... Oh, I saved after Bruno. By the way, since this is not one of my Gen 1 solo runs and I don't care about consistency, I just want to win, I don't really care about saving. Like, I will try Agatha 1,000 times if I have to. And I don't know if it was 1,000, but yeah. So about that, a lot of things need to happen in order to beat Agatha. We need to knock out the Gengar before it uses Toxic. That's the first thing. It happens in this battle. Thankfully, although this Golbat does have Poison Fang, it won't use it. I don't know why that is, but it won't. So that's really good. Now we have to deal with Arbok, and Arbok can do a couple annoying things. Screech makes the second Gengar, which is about to come out, really difficult, because even though I'm at level 100, -4 in defense is significant, and it can poison me with Sludge Bomb. But ultimately, the biggest struggle was this second Gengar. Shadow Ball, even though it's a physical move, since I have been intimidated, so I'm -1 in attack, and I'm minus, I think in this one, 4 in defense, getting past this would be just awful. And so all I could do is just keep battling over and over and over and over again. There wasn't really any strategy. I mean, I could theoretically come in paralyzed, but then I'd have to do the entire Elite Four that way. And that wasn't something I was super keen on doing if I didn't have to. Although it would make a lot of this a little bit more consistent because of all the poisons. After 12 minutes of battling Agatha, everything seemed to work out. I made it to Haunter, but the first thing it did was use Curse. And since I didn't have a quarter of my HP remaining, if I'd gotten a crit, I would have won. But look how close that was. What if I told you this is as close as we get for another hour? And I'm not going at normal game speed here. An hour. And it was soul crushing. There were so many resets, guys. The second Gengar, also, it's going to be hard to notice at these speeds, likes to go for Hypnosis and Nightmare. Not normally something I'd be worried about, but it was quite effective at knocking me out very quickly. It would take dozens of attempts to even make it back to Haunter. And most attempts didn't even make it past Ekans or the very first Gengar. But after nearly an hour, and I don't want to know how many resets, Sean, if you figure that out, you'd need a script. It was so many attempts, probably over 400. Finally, I'm able to get the luck I need. I snap out of confusion, which Golbat also likes to do. I don't get poisoned by Arbok. I get hit by some screeches. I think just one in this case. But we get really good luck versus Gengar. I go to sleep, wake up before Nightmare can hit me, and I don't get any critical hits against me. It does get a full restore, but I get the clutchest critical hit for me. I'm able to knock out Gengar with 273 HP, so that this time when Haunter uses Curse, I have more than enough to tank it. And 9 hours in, I am saving that game. We have made it to Lance. When I tell you that was one of the most tedious battles I've ever done, I mean it. I have spent longer on battles, but this one was just a button simulator. I could do nothing but use struggle. And although maybe if I came in paralyzed, I wouldn't have to worry about the hypnosis nightmare or the poisons, I would think that 25% of the time not attacking would be too much. And frankly, I'm glad I didn't have to figure it out, but I was close to trying it. Now we're going to make it to Lance, and I think we might be done with struggle strats. I think we want to stick with Wobbuffet's natural mirror coat counter, the way Arceus intended it to be, versus Lance. Now, Gyarados does have a mixed set. So I'm going to guess. Ooh, nice guess. It's Dragon Rage. That's 80 back. Unfortunately, I guess wrong here. Hyper Beam, but I'm going to use Safeguard here. Conserve my power points just in case. Oop, guessed wrong again. This time it went for Bite. And okay, guessed right this time. It's going to be one more hit. Hyper Beam, but that's okay. Leftovers doing their job. And after it uses Bite again, no flinch. That's one. Aerodactyl does not have any special moves. And Ancient Power is going to take, looks like 3 or 4. Hopefully just 3. Wing Attack, nice crit. Definitely 3. Dragonite has both. I'm going to guess... I was guessing Hyper Beam, but Outrage is good. It's locked into it. So now I'm guaranteed to hit, and it looks like it's going to be a 2-shot. Maybe? Yes. Okay. Now we have 2 Dragonair. Going for Safeguard. It goes for Safeguard. I know it has Thunder Wave. So, Dragon Rage, perfect. And looks like it has just 160 HP or less. So, we're knocking it out. GG. This thing's not going to hurt me. All right, it's going for Thunder Wave. It may just keep spamming it. Yeah, it's just going to keep spamming it. That sucks. All right, well, this is going to be annoying. I went for counter for a Hyper Beam. And then Safeguard. All right, come on. Okay, Outrage. This doesn't do nearly as much. I mean, Leftovers heals it all. It's going to be a 3-shot, and I mistimed it. So it's going to heal with a potion. We're just going to speed up ahead. Because although this is going to be very long and very tedious, and it doesn't quite knock itself out due to confusion, eventually we beat Lance, and not just beat Lance, a first try victory versus Lance. And that means we might actually be able to do this. We might be able to do this. The rival has been annoying. There have been battles where I felt, especially early on, and unfortunately there is no Magikarp to lose my power points or manipulate my power points or to get paralyzed. I have to do this just normal Wobbuffet. And if it can't, we're going to have to go and do the whole Agatha battle again. Please, Wobbuffet, find a way to make this work. Let's see. All right, so once again, we got Pidgeot, and I don't know if it has... I think it does have Sand Attack, which is a bit of an issue, but all I can do is go for counter. Aerial Ace doesn't do enough to actually damage me. Lefty's Recovery recovers it all. It's going to be a 4-shot. I expected the full restore, so I went for Safeguard, and look at that. The Pidgeot cooperates perfectly. So now we have our Canine. It's going for Flamethrower. One thing that could happen is it could potentially burn me, but that's unlikely. Oh, that was 10%. Hopefully that doesn't make too big a difference. All right, we got Rain Dance and then Hydro Pump. Not quite enough to knock out the Blastoise. It heals. The burn is doing too much, and yeah. All right, well, that sucked. You know what makes it even worse? Pidgeot was super annoying, and I don't know why it has Sand Attack, but it kept going for it. And it was frustrating, so it took a few battles to get back to our Canine. This time, I'm not going to make the same mistake, and I'm going to go for Safeguard, and it's going to knock out Arcanine. Now, against Blastoise, I correctly read it's going to go for Rain Dance Hydro Pump. I know it's going to heal here, and don't miss. And, ooh, so it's a range. That could be very helpful. Alakazam is next. Now, Alakazam just has special moves, and this is why I've been very careful with my Mirror Coats, because I know I'm going to need them. I mean, I've maxed out my power points. All right, special defense drop actually is kind of good because we knock things out quicker. So, Alakazam now, all right, it looks like it's only 2 Psychics. Rhydon is next. This only has physical moves, but the final Pokemon is perhaps the most scary. Oh, the Sand Attack. There was one that hit, so finally that comes into play. I'm also going to go for Safeguard here, trying to see what it's going to do to me. And at half HP, we make it to the final but most annoying Pokemon, Executor. It goes for Light Screen. That's one of its moves. It goes for Giga Drain. I go for Mirror Coat. If it goes for Giga Drain again, I win, but it goes for Sleep Powder. I could be asleep for too long. That would be a problem. It goes for Giga Drain. I go for Safeguard. But now, it's not going to knock it out. It goes for Sleep Powder. Why is it just predicting me? Now it goes for Light Screen. I'm going to run out of Mirror Coats. No! Stop it! Stop it! I have 14 left. Stop going for Sleep Powder. I can't. Come on. There's Giga Drain. I go for Mirror Coat. It misses! No! And it's going to run out of Giga Drain soon, and it put me to sleep. But it goes for Light Screen. I wake up. I'm just going to spam Mirror Coat here. It goes for Giga Drain. All right, one more hit. One more hit. Just, full restore. It had another one. God. So I think now I have to go for counter. It might be out of Giga Drains. It is. It's going for Egg Bomb, a physical move. One good thing, no Leech Seed, but I'm going to use Safeguard. I don't want to go back to sleep. And, all right, come on. Come on. Oh, it's just spamming it. It's just spamming it. Oh, God. Am I going to have to use Struggle in the final battle? I'm out of Safeguards. All right, so I'm just asleep now. And, oh, God, this is awful. This is awful. Egg Bomb also misses 25% of the time, which is terrible. And now it's trying to put me back to sleep. Oh, God, I'm going to speed this up. Finally, we wake up. Egg Bomb counter. Let's go. No! Like 1 HP. And I'm back asleep. But the good news is on 1 HP, if it runs out of power points before I do, oh, it doesn't matter. Counter. Let's go. It was going to knock itself out anyway. That was a guaranteed victory. Oh my, that was a long, tedious battle. And isn't that the perfect and most fitting ending to a long and tedious run? Over 9 hours of real time did this take me, which is an absurdly long time. And I thought of using Why Not. I actually don't think Why Not would have been able to do this. This was an incredibly difficult challenge, and sadly might be one of the last Wobbuffet can overcome. Apparently, Madrybread tried this in Emerald and failed, which there is a way in theory I could improve on his strategy, but I don't know if it would actually work in practice. And following Generation 3, the way Struggle's recoil would work is totally different, where I would lose 25% of my maximum HP every time I used it. So it's very possible if we get physical ghost Pokemon, we would be unable to hit them and we would just faint due to Struggle. So I don't know if this will ever happen in another run, but I'm happy to have done it in Fire Red, Leaf Green. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have more videos coming soon, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.